Percubaan suara. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Di sini terdapat beberapa pengumuman untuk perhatian para hadirin. Pengumuman pertama, hadirin dijemput untuk mengambil tempat duduk dengan memenuhi ruang hadapan sebelum majlis dimulakan dan tidak meninggalkan auditorium sebelum majlis selesai. Pengumuman kedua, hadirin harus memastikan telefon bimbit berada dalam keadaan mod senyap sepanjang majlis berlangsung. Pengumuman ketiga, hadirin dimohon untuk berdiri semasa diumumkan perarakan masuk tetamu kehormat dan kekal berdiri untuk nyanyian lagu Negaraku dan Putra Gemilang. Pengumuman keempat, sekiranya berlaku sebarang kecemasan, para hadirin dimohon bertenang dan mengikut arahan petugas. Untuk makluman para hadirin, syarahan inaugural ini juga dilaksanakan secara hybrid serta dipancarkan secara langsung melalui Facebook UPM dan Facebook Fakulti Kejuruteraan. Para penonton yang menyertai majlis ini secara atas talian dialu-alukan untuk menekan butang like dan share halaman-halaman Facebook tersebut. Dan dimohon kerjasama untuk mengisi kehadiran melalui pautan yang dikongsikan di ruangan komen Facebook untuk sijil penyertaan dan mata latihan CPD bagi staf UPM. Terima kasih atas perhatian anda.
Sejuta pesona takkan berbanding dengan paras cantikmu. Bawa daku pergi ke nirwana, gairah hasratku terus menggelora. Sanubariku telah berkata bahwa
bukan sebab saya pun tak tahu. Open. Slide dia dah buka. Slide dia dah terbuka lah. Kan nak try dah ke? Kak. Kak.
Mengumumkan ketibaan yang berbahagia Profesor Dr. Zamri Sekawi, Timbalan Naib Chancellor Pendidikan dan Inovasi Universiti Putra Malaysia diiringi Dev-Dev kehormat. Nyanyian lagu Negaraku dan Putra Gemilang. Hadirin dipersilakan duduk. Hadirin sekalian, bagi memberkati majlis pagi ini, dijemput Yang Berbahagia Profesor Insinyur T.S. Dr. Muhammad Lutfi Othman dari Fakulti Kejuruteraan untuk memimpin bacaan doa. Bagi yang bukan beragama Islam, dimohon untuk bertafakur mengikut agama masing-masing. Dipersilakan.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Al-Fatihah. Auzubillahi minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Tahiruna biha min jami'i sayyi'at wa tarfa'una biha indaka lad-darajat wa tuballighuna biha al-ghayati min jami'il khairati fil hayati wa ba'dal mamat wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Ya awalal awalin, ya akhiral akhirin, ya zal quwwatil matin, ya rahimal masakin, ya arhamar rahimin. La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inna kunna minaz zalimin. La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inna kunna minaz zalimin. La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inna kunna minaz zalimin. Ya hayy ya qayyum bi rahmatika astaghith. La ilaha illa anta. Ya Allah, ya Al-Wajid, ya Ar-Rahman, ya Ar-Rahim, ya Syakur. Sesungguhnya kami merafakkan setinggi-tinggi kesyukuran kehadrat-Mu ya Allah atas segala nikmat, rahmat dan kurnia-Mu yang tidak terhitung kepada kami ya Allah. Ya Allah, limpahkanlah juga rahmat-Mu ya Allah kepada kedua-dua ibu bapa kami, ahli keluarga kami, para guru kami, sahabat-sahabat kami, serta seluruh warga Universiti Putra Malaysia. Ya Allah, ya Al-Mu'iz, kurniakanlah kepada kami kekhusyukan, ketenangan ya Allah dan keberkatan ya Allah sepanjang berlangsungnya majlis syarahan inaugural yang berbahagia Profesor Insinyur Dr. Siti Anum Ahmad, sahabat kami yang kami muliakan, pada hari yang penuh bermakna ini ya Allah. Jadikanlah kami dalam kalangan hamba-hamba-Mu ya Allah yang Engkau muliakan, dan limpahkanlah kemuliaan serta rahmat-Mu kepada semua yang telah berusaha, bermujahadah, korbankan masa dan tenaga menjayakan majlis ini semata-mata untuk-Mu ya Allah. Ya Allah, ya Al-Fatah, ya Al-Wadud, kami memohon kepada-Mu ya Allah agar Engkau permudahkan perjalanan majlis syarahan inaugural ini dari awal hingga akhirnya ya Allah. Kau lancarkanlah penyampaian yang berbahagia Profesor Insinyur Dr. Siti Anum Ahmad, serta kurniakanlah kejayaan yang penuh keberkatan ya Allah. Ya Al-Basit, bukakanlah seluas-luasnya pintu-pintu ilmu, hikmah dan kefahaman-Mu ya Allah, agar segala ilmu yang dikongsikan dapat dimanfaatkan dalam ibadah kami, dalam pekerjaan kami, dalam kehidupan kami ya Allah, demi meningkatkan kecemerlangan diri, masyarakat serta Universiti Putra Malaysia dengan kekuasaan-Mu ya Allah, ya Al-Khaliq. Ya Allah, ya Al-Muqid, bukakanlah jalan-jalan kejayaan, kekuatan, kebijaksanaan dan ketabahan kepada kami ya Allah, serta generasi-generasi selepas kami agar kami terus mencintai, menuntut, menghayati dan memartabatkan ilmu-Mu ya Allah demi kesejahteraan ummah dan kemajuan negara. Ya Allah, ya Al-Quddus, sucikanlah hati-hati kami ya Allah. Peliharalah niat dan amalan kami dalam setiap ibadah kami ya Allah. Pekerjaan yang kami laksanakan di Universiti Putra Malaysia ini ya Allah, serta dalam kehidupan seharian bersama keluarga, bersama sahabat dan para guru kami ya Allah. Jadikanlah kami hamba-hamba-Mu yang sentiasa mendapat keredaan-Mu ya Allah. Ya Zal Jalali wal Ikram, tambahkanlah dalam hati-hati kami rasa cinta kepada segala kebaikan ya Allah, ilmu dan kebijaksanaan ya Allah. Kurniakanlah kepada kami, para guru, para pemimpin dan seluruh warga Universiti keikhlasan, kekuatan serta istiqamah ya Allah, untuk terus berbakti dalam membangunkan ummah, masyarakat, bangsa dan agama melalui ilmu yang bermanfaat ya Allah. Ya Allah, Tuhan yang Maha Pemurah ya Allah, jadikanlah negara kami ya Allah sebuah negara yang sentiasa dilimpahi rahmat-Mu ya Allah, keberkatan-Mu ya Allah, nikmat-Mu ya Allah. Kekalkanlah keamanan dan kemakmuran sepanjang zaman ya Allah. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Majlis merakamkan ucapan terima kasih atas pimpinan bacaan doa sebentar tadi. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Yang berbahagia, Profesor Dr. Zamri Sekawi, Timbalan Naib Chancellor Penyelidikan dan Inovasi Universiti Putra Malaysia. Yang berbahagia, Profesor Insinyur Dr. Muhammad Zainal Abidin Abdul Kadir, Dekan Fakulti Kejuruteraan Universiti Putra Malaysia. Yang berbahagia, Profesor Insinyur Dr. Siti Anum Ahmad, Profesor di Jabatan Kejuruteraan Elektrik dan Elektronik, Fakulti Kejuruteraan yang akan menyampaikan syarahan inaugural pada pagi ini. Pegawai-pegawai kanan universiti, ahli-ahli pengurusan Fakulti Kejuruteraan, ahli keluarga yang berbahagia Profesor Insinyur Dr. Siti Anum Ahmad, tetamu-tetamu jemputan dan rakan industri Universiti Putra Malaysia, serta hadirat sekalian. Terlebih dahulu, izinkan saya memperkenalkan diri. Saya, Jasminta Jasni, dari Jabatan Kejuruteraan Elektrik dan Elektronik, Fakulti Kejuruteraan, selaku pengacara majlis pada pagi ini. Selamat datang diucapkan ke majlis syarahan inaugural oleh Yang Berbahagia Profesor Insinyur Dr. Siti Anum Ahmad bertajuk Signals of Life, AI and Biomedical Innovations for Human Wellbeing. Hadirin sekalian, tanpa melengahkan masa lagi, majlis mempersilakan Yang Berbahagia Profesor Dr. Zamri Sekawi, Timbalan Naib Chancellor Penyelidikan dan Inovasi Universiti Putra Malaysia untuk memperkenalkan dan seterusnya menjemput Yang Berbahagia Profesor Insinyur Dr. Siti Anum Ahmad untuk menyampaikan syarahan inaugural beliau. Dengan segala hormatnya, majlis mempersilakan.
Terima kasih pengurusi majlis. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera dan salam Malaysia Madani. Yang berbahagia Profesor Insinyur Dr. Muhammad Zainal Abidin Abdul Kadir, Dekan Fakulti Kejuruteraan Universiti Putra Malaysia. Yang berbahagia Profesor Insinyur Dr. Siti Anum Ahmad daripada Jabatan Kejuruteraan Elektrik dan Elektronik Fakulti Kejuruteraan yang juga akan menyampaikan syarahan beliau pada pagi ini. Pagi ini dia kata dia nervous tapi nampak dah okey dah. Pegawai kanan Universiti Putra Malaysia, Academician Profesor Emeritus Datin Paduka Setia Datuk Aini Idris, mantan Naib Chancellor yang ada pada pagi ini. Terima kasih kerana datang. Ahli pengurusan Fakulti Kejuruteraan, tetamu-tetamu jemputan, rakan industri, tuan-tuan dan puan-puan yang dihormati sekalian. Jadi Alhamdulillah, setinggi-tinggi kesyukuran kita panjatkan ke hadrat ilahi kerana dengan limpah kurnia dan izinnya kita dapat berhimpun dalam majlis ilmu yang penuh bermakna pada pagi yang berkat ini. Jadi izinkan saya berkongsi sedikit mengenai latar belakang dan pencapaian Yang Berbahagia Profesor Insinyur Dr. Siti Anum Ahmad. Beliau dilahirkan pada 9 Disember 1975 di Air Baloi, Pontian, Johor. Dan beliau memulakan pengajian di Universiti Putra Malaysia dalam program matrikulasi Sains Fizik sebelum melanjutkan ijazah Bachelor Kejuruteraan Elektronik Komputer dengan tajaan Sony TV Malaysia Sdn Bhd. Beliau kemudiannya menyambung pengajian ke University of Southampton, United Kingdom dan berjaya memperoleh ijazah sarjana dalam sistem reka bentuk mikroelektronik serta ijazah Dr. Falsafah dalam bidang kejuruteraan bioperubatan. Kerjaya akademik beliau di UPM bermula pada tahun 2000 sebagai tutor di Fakulti Kejuruteraan. Sekembalinya ke tanah air selepas menamatkan pengajian Dr. Falsafah, beliau terus mengurak langkah sebagai ahli akademik dan penyelidik dalam bidang kejuruteraan bioperubatan, kecerdasan buatan dan teknologi kesihatan. Kepakaran beliau turut diiktiraf apabila dilantik sebagai Timbalan Pengarah Institut Penyelidikan Penuaan Malaysia ataupun MyAgeing pada tahun 2017 dan seterusnya menerajui institut tersebut sebagai pengarah dari tahun 2020 sehingga 2023. Sepanjang lebih 2 dekad dalam dunia akademik, Profesor Insinyur Dr. Siti Anum Ahmad telah menerima pelbagai pengiktirafan Antaranya Top Research Scientist Malaysia TRSM 2024, Honorable Mention bagi Digital Literacy Program 2024 serta Special Prize for COVID-19 Responses for Healthy Aging Prize for ASEAN Innovation 2021. Beliau juga memperoleh geran penyelidikan bernilai hampir 5 juta ringgit, menerbitkan lebih 120 artikel jurnal berindex, menerima lebih 3,500 citasi dengan H-index 27. Ini satu pencapaian yang sangat membanggakan, serta melaksanakan pelbagai projek perundingan dan penyelidikan bersama agensi dalam dan luar negara. Selain itu, beliau merupakan jurutera profesional berdaftar dengan Lembaga Jurutera Malaysia, jurutera bertauliah melalui Institution of Engineering and Technology United Kingdom, serta ahli jawatankuasa infrastruktur kesihatan digital tabik urus data dan dasar Akademi Sains Malaysia. Pencapaian dan sumbangan beliau dalam bidang kejuruteraan bioperubatan dan kecerdasan buatan dan teknologi kesihatan mencerminkan komitmen yang tinggi terhadap pembangunan ilmu serta penyelidikan yang beri manfaat kepada masyarakat. Tanpa melengah masa, marilah kita bersama-sama mengikuti syaharan inaugural yang akan disampaikan oleh Yang Berbahagia Profesor Insinyur Dr. Siti Anor Ahmad yang bertajuk Signals of Life, Artificial Intelligence and Biomedical Innovations for Human Wellbeing. Dengan segala hormatnya, dipersilakan.
Yang Berbahagia Profesor Dr. Zamri Sakawi, Timbalan Nat Chancellor Pendidikan dan Inovasi Universiti Putra Malaysia. Yang Berbahagia Profesor Insinyur Dr. Muhammad Zainal Abidin Abdul Kadir, Dekan Fakulti Kejuruteraan Universiti Putra Malaysia. Yang Berbahagia Profesor Emeritus Datin Paduka Setia Datuk Dr. Aini Idris, Mantan Nat Chancellor Universiti Putra Malaysia. Yang Mulia Datuk Dr. Tengku Aizan Tengku Abdul Hamid, Pengurusi Pentadbir Pencen Swasta PPA dan juga merangkap pengasas Institut Pendidikan Penuaan Malaysia MAEJIN, pegawai-pegawai kanan universiti, ahli pengurusan fakulti kejuruteraan, tetamu-tetamu jemputan dan rakan industri Universiti Putra Malaysia serta hadirin sekalian. Izinkan saya untuk menyampaikan ucapan saya, inaugural saya dalam bahasa Inggeris.
Every day, millions of signals flow silently through our bodies. For an elderly man living alone, a smartwatch on his wrist monitors his heart around the clock, detecting irregular rhythms before any symptoms appear. For a young athlete training on the track, EMG sensors capture every muscle signal in real time, allowing coaches to detect early fatigue and prevent injury before it happens. In hospital wards, continuous monitoring gives families and medical teams peace of mind. Every heartbeat, every breath, tracked without interruption, day and night. After a stroke, brain signals decoded through EEG control a robotic arm in milliseconds, helping patients regain movement and independence one step at a time. From ambulances to homes, from sports fields to intensive care units, physiological signals guide life-saving decisions every single moment of every day. Behind every heartbeat, every thought, every movement, there is a signal. Biomedical engineers are the ones who listen and build the technologies that save lives.
Saya ada masalah teknikal sikit dengan slide saya. Mungkin saya tak boleh nak apa? Nak run. Dia masalah komputer. Dia tak boleh nak ni. Mouse. Dia tak boleh nak. Cuba buka ni. Cuba buka ni. Maaf ya. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, terima kasih. Okay, the video just now introduced the central idea of my lecture today. Life is constantly speaking to us through signals. My work has been about how to listen to those signals and how to turn them into something for human well-being. Distinguished guests, respected colleagues, family, friends and students, thank you very much for being here today. Standing before you for my inaugural lecture is both a great honor and a very meaningful milestone in my academic journey. Today is not about celebrating an achievement, but also about sharing the people, experiences and purposes that have shaped my journey. I'm truly grateful to have all of you here today to share this special moment with me. To tell this story, I'll take you through 3 chapters, not only of my research, but also of the journey that gave that research its meanings. Chapter 1 explained the engineering and the science. We then move to chapter 2, beyond the laboratory, to the purpose and societal impact, and chapter 3 is more personal about the people, decisions, and experiences behind the journey. Let us begin with the foundation of my work, how engineers learn to listen to the language of life. The first chapter begins with a very simple question. What does engineering have to do with the human body? Okay, let me begin by explaining what is biomedical engineering. So it consists of 2 different fields, which are engineering and medicine. Engineering provides tools and problem solving. Medicine provides knowledge of health, disease and care. Biomedical engineering fits between them and designs solutions for people. But the meeting between engineering and medicine is not a single discipline. It brings together many different forms of knowledge. They are the convergence of disciplines where engineering contributes via artificial intelligence, sensors, software and data analysis, while medicine contributes diagnosis, treatment and patient care. Biological science helps us to understand how the body works, and the shared destination is human well-being. Because these disciplines meet in many ways, biomedical engineering has grown into a broad ecosystem of research and application. So the slide here shows the biomedical engineering ecosystem, where we can see multiple domains from instrumentation and biosensors to capture information. We have medical devices and tech to turn into practical support. As we can see, it's a very huge, biomedical engineering is a very huge field, and my work is only part of it, which is on signal processing and artificial intelligence. Across all these domains, one thing is common. We need information from the human body, and much of that information comes to us as a physiological signals. I believe we have seen these signals. At our age, we make a regular visit to the hospital for medical checkup. If you are in UPM, after 40, we have to do annual medical checkup. Lots of issues started to appear when we reach after 40. So physiological signals are the body quiet message where EEG reflects to our brain activity, ECG at the heart, EMG at the muscles, and PPG is the blood circulation or oxygenation. If we can see here, each waveform looks different because each tells a different physiological story. Every signal tells a story. The waveform alone, yes, we can see a pattern, but the important question is, what story is hidden in that pattern? So if we look at the signal, when we look at the EEG signal, for example, what is happening inside the brain? Or if we look at the ECG, is our heart healthy? Or other muscles become fatigued through EMG signals? So there are three main stages here. First, of course, we need to capture the signals. And then we need to interpret the story because every signal tells a story. So by uncovering hidden patterns in the signal, we translate this silent message into meaningful insights about health and well-being. And from there, we turn it into meaningful information for our health and care. I'm sure everyone have experienced this. You go for medical checkup, doctor show this is the results and what is the diagnosis and all. And to capture these signals, to capture these stories, we need different ways of listening because the body does not speak through only one type of signal. So these here different technologies allows us to capture the body hidden signals. There are three types how technologies are used to capture the signal. The first one is capture the body electrical activity using surface electrode. I'm sure you have experienced when you put electrodes on your chest for the ECG. So that one is electrical signals, usually used to measure EEG, ECG, EMG. And then we have optical signals that use light to monitor blood flow and oxygen. Our smartwatch using this technology. And we also have mechanical signals where it detects vibration and heart sound. So from here we know that different technologies, one purpose, which is to understand human body. To capture this story, we do, whatever the sensing method that we use, the data still need travel through the same journey from a raw signal to a useful decision. So this is basically the pipeline, how the signal we get useful decision. We use sensors to capture all the signals and then signal processing stage remove any noise and extract useful information. AI, artificial intelligence, then recognizes these patterns and the results support the diagnosis, prediction or personalized care. The body delivers the signal processing helps us listen, and AI helps us understand and give better decision. This way of thinking, listening, understanding and acting become the philosophy that guided my research career. Although the application changed over the years, the underlying question remained the same. What is the body trying to tell us and how can engineering respond? For me, that journey began with one signal, the electrical activity of muscles. So this is my first research journey, began with my PhD at the University of Southampton to develop EMG-based control approach for an artificial hand. At first glance, it looks like robotics. But at its heart, it was about understanding the body's own electrical signal. The engineering challenge sounded simple. If a person intends to move the hand, can a machine recognize the intention? How does a machine know what we want to do? For us, it's very easy. If we intend to picking up a cup, the brain sends a command. The muscle responds and the hand moves and picking up the cup and done. However, for those who without hand or for hand amputee, the process is different. Yes, the brain still sends the command and the muscles still produce EMG signal, but the question is how the artificial hand interpret what those signals mean. And the hand here, this is the 6 degree of freedom Southampton Remedy hand. They have developed this hand. And my PhD to translate this movement. And for a knowledge, For our daily life, there are 6 patterns of daily hand grip postures. They're called spherical, I cannot see, lateral, tripod, tip, and so on. Eyes catching up with age. Okay, based on that EMG signal, it does not come with labels such as pick up a cup or open a door. The machine has to recognize the intended movement. And this became the central challenge of my PhD. The solution was a pattern recognition system. Although similar systems already available, my contribution was to develop a better way of representing EMG signals, allowing different hand movements to be identified more accurately. To build that bridge, the raw muscle signal had to be transformed step by step into a recognized hand gesture. So let me share a bit about the 4 main steps in the pattern recognition system. Okay, this is from my thesis. First, we collect the EMG signals. And I think this is one important lesson that I learned, that to collect that signal is not just simply placing electrodes on the skin. They must be positioned over the correct muscles. Yes, we have the guidelines. If you want to detect the hand movement, you have to put your, if you want to flex or extend your, what is this? Wrist. Okay, wrist, you have to investigate flexor and extensor muscles. So I don't like biology. My last biology lesson happened during my SPM, and I only only pass P7. So see what okay now. Okay, so to understand this better, my supervisor asked me to go to the medical school of Southampton University, go to their I think anatomical lab, look by myself the specimen, the hand specimen, trace where is the muscle, the correct place of muscle, and compare with the guideline that I have to learn. So suddenly I feel I'm a medic student. Luckily, I like to watch Gray's Anatomy, because in medic there is Gray's, just the spelling is different, Gray and Grey. So I have that experience a bit. Okay, so this taught me an important lesson. Before analyzing a signal, we must understand where it comes from. Next, for feature extraction, this is the stage convert the complex EMG signal into meaningful numbers. And my contribution for PhD is very small. We just using proposed this new method called approximate entropy. Entropy is an analysis to study randomness of the data, and then using moving average and kurtosis. So people always say PhD is just very tiny contribution, and my students always scared I don't have any contribution. So today I'm sharing my contribution during my PhD is just very small, and I'm sure all of us do, right? Okay, and then from there we use fuzzy classifier to classify the movement. During that time, fuzzy logic is not, we don't really use AI, artificial intelligence, but fuzzy logic is part of AI and machine learning as well. And finally, we get the recognized gestures. Okay, then I come back from my PhD on 2009. My PhD answered one question, but it also began a much longer research journey. After returning to UPM in 2009, my students and I continued my PhD work, developing the system, from signal processing and classification to motor control, a 3D printed hand, and a functional grasping. So I list down my research team, my postgraduate students, FYP students that helping me in this project. And Alhamdulillah, we also research several research funding to develop each part further. From my PhD also, the most importantly is it taught me that muscle signal can tell many stories, not only the intention to move. My first research story began with muscle signals. Since then, every signal from the human body has become new story to understand. This is the next project. that I did related to muscle. Then my PhD student Nurul Fauzani, she's here. Thank you for coming. In this study, it asks whether EMG signals can detect prolonged fatigue before it affects performance or increasing injury risk. When intensive training is followed by inadequate recovery, normal fatigue may develop into prolonged fatigue. So we collected EMG signals from 20 participants over 5 consecutive days during a treadmill test, focusing on 4 lower limb muscles, and we conducted this study at Pusat Sukan UPM. Thank you very much, Pusat Sukan, for assisting us that time. Then we extracted the features and used another method, AI method, to identify prolonged fatigue. So we may have about fatigue, but prolonged fatigue is when your muscles are tired, but you push your muscle to move, then it will cause prolonged fatigue and potentially harmful. So the challenge in this work is recognizing when it becomes prolonged and potentially harmful. So what did the muscle signal reveal? The findings show that normal and prolonged fatigue produce different patterns in the muscle signals. We get high accuracy to detect this one across the 4 muscles that we investigated. The key message is simple. Muscle signal can warn us the normal tiredness is becoming prolonged fatigue, where we may need to rest and recovery. So please know, you understand your body, you know your body need rest, or you still can continue. And this is another project related to muscle performance done by another PhD student, Izrin Farina. I'm not sure if she's here or not. Okay, but in this study, we asked a practical question. Can muscle signal help us decide whether an injured industry worker is ready to return to lifting tasks? So there are many incidents where industrial worker injured during work that cause them cannot continue their working. So traditional assessments can be subjective. Evaluators may give different scores, and a worker may complete the task by compensating with other muscle, hiding possible weakness or risk. So from this study, we recorded EMG signals from arm and back muscle of healthy participants and return to work patient while they perform 3 lifting tasks. And for this one, we appreciate I would like to acknowledge Sokso Rehabilitation Melaka. We did the data collection over there, and we use AI again to analyze the muscle performance. The aim of this study is we want to move from subjective judgment towards objective quantitative evidence to support safer return to work decisions. And what this muscle signal reveal, we can see it gives a good testing accuracy and validation accuracy. But most importantly, this study shows that the EMG signals return to work patient had greater difficulty even during medium work, while healthy participants generally show higher strength, power, and endurance. The key message is that muscle signal can provide objective evidence for safer and fairer return work decision, protecting both the worker and the workplace. So this is the end of chapter 1, where we began with one main vision, to understand the body signal and use them to improve human well-being. My research started with EMG and later expanded to EEG, gait and movement analysis, and I have started collaborated with other universities, agencies like UKM, UPM Teaching Hospital at SAS, QTech, and also at Monash University Malaysia. Although the signals and application were different, but the approach remained the same. Process the signals, extract meaningful features, and use AI to interpret them. The outcomes support rehabilitation, early detection, safety, and better real-time decisions. So the key message from chapter 1 is different signals, different applications, but one destination, one purpose, which is improving human well-being. We then move to chapter 2, the purpose. This chapter is about what happened when your engineering perspective met the realities of aging, community and service. This new chapter began in 2017 when I entered my aging with an engineering background and discovered a completely new world. As mentioned earlier, I joined my aging in 2017 as Deputy Director, then as a Director in 2020 and completing the term in 2023. This is also my first management post during, and then I asked my friend Prof. Niza, I'm not sure if he still remember this, what should I do? What should Deputy Director do? He said, just follow the direction of your director. So the director is here. So that is what I did. I just follow my director, Datuk Tengku Aizan, who is here today. Thank you, Datuk. So at my aging, it taught me to see research beyond the laboratory through people, communities, policy and service. More importantly, I learned that aging is not merely a research topic, it is a human journey. To summarize my 6 years of my aging, I like to use this. It is I came, I saw, and I learned phase. My first task was to understand whom we mean when we talk about older persons. Yes, I can be very excited when I talk about aging. So what do we mean by older persons? We have two definitions. It may differ, but the direction is the same. In Malaysia, we use the definition of 60 years old and above. But other agencies, they also use 65 years old above. And the right plot, I shared it here because this is, when I first saw this, when I joined my aging, I was so, wow, I'm impressed. So, the right hand side, this is more to social sciences research that make we engineers look jacon a bit when I first saw it. Okay, this series of population called population pyramids. It shows Malaysian demographic transition over 100 years from 1950 to 2050. We can clearly see the shape gradually changing from a broad-based pyramid to a more rectangular structure reflecting a growing proportion of older persons and a shrinking younger population. So the more urgent question is not where we draw the age line. It is whether Malaysia is prepared for the speed of these demographic changes. Malaysia is aging and it's aging fast. So we saw the number 14% there. 14% refers to the proportion of the population who are older persons. So Malaysia, we are expected to reach this level by 2030 if you use that definition of 60 years old and above. And if you use definition of 65 years old and above, we will reach this level by 2043. So what that 14% means? At 14%, a country is classified as an aged nation. Japan, for comparison, is already super aged nation, with more than 20% of its population aged 65 and above. These challenges will not affect only healthcare, but also caregiving, social security, and infrastructure. So the question is no longer whether Malaysia is aging, but how prepared we are. So preparation cannot focus only on disease and healthcare, because aging will involve much more than physical health. And this is another slide that I like very much when I joined my aging. The biggest lesson I keep seeing at my aging, which is well-being, is multi-dimensional. It's not just on being healthy. It depends on financial security, supportive environment, social connection, and spiritual meaning. And I think the popular question nowadays is, how much saving do we need to retire comfortably? Some reports say 200,000. Some said 500,000. Some said 1 million. We do the math. We know ourselves, we know. So what the idea is, we should prepare for our retirement. Understanding that wider picture also helped me distinguish 3 related fields that are often used interchangeably. Gerontology, there are 3 ways of looking at aging. Gerontology means research in understanding aging and older persons, geriatrics. I think I saw Dr. Hakimah. Our geriatrician from UPM Teaching Hospital focuses on providing medical care for older persons, and Geron Technology uses this understanding to design technologies that support healthier, safer, and more independent aging. This is where my engineering background found its role, using technology to respond to the needs of an aging society. In simple terms, we understand aging, we provide care and design better solutions. But designing for an aging cannot remain idea on a slide. It has to meet real people and real communities. And next, I would like to share my experience. I would say this is my baby project. Happened in 2017. I just joined my aging this time, 2017, where a home entrusted to UPM. Okay, the lady in the picture here, Haja Hasnauddin, she wakaf her house to my aging for the purpose of older person in Paroi Seremban. The house is located at Paroi Seremban, and happened to be her late husband was Faculty of Engineering First Dean, Encik Abdul Rahman Yaakob. So the name Pangaatan there is nickname for the Encik Abdul Rahman Yaakob. Okay, that's why the house is called Wakaf Pangaatan. And now this Wakaf Pangaatan has become Pusat Aktiviti Warga Emas, registered NGO working with under JKM, Jabatan Kebajikan Masyarakat. This was not just a house, it was an amanah. It is not just my aging project, many hands involved in this project, but through trust, coordination and community partnership from UPM, my aging, and then from Wazan, thank you Dr. Razali, he former Wazan Director, Faculty of Engineering and also Faculty of Design and Built Environment. And then we collaborated with Majlis Agama Islam Negeri Sembilan, Jabatan Kebajikan Masyarakat and local community stakeholders. So I just share a bit the journey from 2017 to 2022. Okay, so the first picture with Datin Aini and Dr. Razali, like I said, my director traveled a lot last time. She has many international engagement, aging research. Okay, so I just go. I think when I reached there, I saw that I need proper baju kurung. I was a bit underdressed. Anyway, this is on weekend. We went there, discussed. This is the first time we met the owner, Puan Haja Hasna. And then thank you, Wazan, for giving the support to continue this project. And we have, the third picture, there's a picture with former Negeri Sembilan Chief Minister, Tok Mat Hassan. So I would like to thank, I think, Prof. Niza and Kak Ani, his wife. He took us the community, Pusat Gerakan Community at Rantau. We went from UPM to Rantau, waiting with others, want to meet Tok Mat and express our intention to collaborate how we can continue this. And then from there, we collaborated. He opened the path to work with Majlis Agama Islam Negeri Sembilan, MAENS, and then we received the funding. And the fourth picture with my engineering team, and the last picture is the meeting with Jabatan Kebajikan Masyarakat when we received the approval to open our Pusat Aktiviti Warga Emas. So what this project taught me, that meaningful community projects require more than research. This is my first management post and everything is very alien to me. Requires more than research. I had to learn about project leadership, funding, operations, governance, and most importantly, persistence. And I would like to take this opportunity to especially acknowledge our consultants. There are 3 consultants from Fakulti Reka Bentuk that responsible in designing exterior and interior of the house. And then we have Datin Siti Sohaila. You know it's not easy. Who managed the power application and until we successful. It's not that easy. It requires several cycles back and forth with the documentation. And our friend, the late Dr. Hayati Kadir from FPSK, Fakulti Perubatan Kesihatan, she was the first power my aging coordinator who worked hard to make sure our house operate. Because like I mentioned earlier, it's a very big amanah to Puan Haji Hasnah. So the journey take very long time. There was one time we did nothing because we don't know what to do. We couldn't find the way yet to move forward. So the journey from 2017 to 2022 showed me that one project may begin with an idea, but it takes many hands to bring to life. So this is the house. We transformed the 30-year-old house using universal design principles, making it safer, accessible, comfortable and functional for older persons, and supported by our 3 consultants from Fakulti Reka Bentuk. And in 2021, it began operating as Power at My Aging, not only as activity center, but also a living lab where research respond directly to the community needs. Today, it supports active aging, lifelong learning, student engagement, and collaboration with the community. So before this, it is directly managed by My Aging, but over the years, we have, it's not passed. My Aging still monitor them, but they can now run on their own as NGO, Power at My Aging. So the house had finally become what Pak Ngah Atan's family intended, a place that continues to benefit older persons. I forgot to mention, Puan Haji Hasnah planned to come today, but yesterday her daughter called me, she's not feeling well. I think she is already 90-year-old plus, right, Datuk? Yes. So, one of the clearest community needs soon become impossible to ignore, especially when COVID-19 moved everyday life online. The next story is about another meaningful story when I was at My Aging, from COVID-19 to digital inclusion. My Aging Digital Literacy Program for older persons began during COVID-19 when daily life suddenly moved online and many older persons were left behind. We started the project in October 2022. We first assessed their needs via online survey, and from there we developed and tested practical digital literacy modules with older persons themselves. And in 2022, the program first moved into the community through our older persons NGO, U3A, Pusat Aktiviti Warga Emas Putrajaya, and many others. The objective was simple: to build confidence, develop practical digital skill, promote safe and independent technology use, and reduce the digital divide. What began as response to COVID-19 eventually grew into a broader mission for digital inclusion. Well, this is our six My Aging Digital Literacy modules. From mobile devices, communication to navigation, online services, and scam prevention, and they are in English language. So these are my team. The program was developed by our small but committed team. Farah, Fakrul, Fadil, Fung, and me, Anom, for F1A. We always joke, we are the mafia. I'm not sure, Fakrul is here or not? As usual. Those who knows, you know. Anyway, our program received, then we go, we strengthen our program through community delivery, partnership, and knowledge sharing. Our program received an honorable mention in the Healthy Aging Prize for Asian Innovation in 2024. It's not the award that matter. It matter a bit for KPI, but that award shows that a local initiative can gain wider recognition. So most importantly, this program changed how we work, how we move from assumptions about what older persons need to evidence from the community, and finally to practical action. And this local initiative has now grown into regional project involving Malaysia, Brunei Darussalam, and Indonesia. With support from Asian Center for Active Aging and Innovation, we aim to adapt and expand our digital literacy program to meet the needs for older persons in each country. So earlier I said our module is in English. After this, we will translate that English language to Bahasa Melayu Bahasa Indonesia and Bahasa Brunei. So from the project started this year, from 2026 to 2028, the project will develop culturally appropriate learning materials, train local trainers, and build on the person's digital skills and confidence. The goal is simple: to create more digitally connected, confident, and independent older persons across Asia. What began in Malaysia during COVID-19 has now become a shared regional mission. And this picture is from our kick-off meeting in April, where we brought all the project members from Indonesia to Brunei for our first kick-off meeting and Malaysia team. These slides bring together the key lessons from Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. First, meaningful work is never done alone. Every achievement was made possible by a team. Yes, I always believe in teamwork. Second is to stay positive. Challenges, delays, and detours are part of the journey, and they often teach us something valuable. Third one, dare to try. This is my favorite. We do not need to wait until everything is perfect. We begin, we learn, we adjust, and try again. In other words, my favorite words, saya redah aja. And finally, work smart, play harder, works with purpose, and always make space for joy and celebrate the people beside us. That's why I always looking forward any makan-makan to celebrate any small achievement. And of course, in our department, we have a ladies group and we have our annual ladies trip. Annual since 3 years ago. Yeah, we've been just girls, just ladies for our me time. Okay, from just within Asian, because we are already cannot travel far. Just Bangkok, Singapore, and Indonesia. Anyway, there are many times I feel uncertain, overwhelmed, sad, frustrated. But whenever I have that feeling, I ask myself, what is the worst that could happen? Perhaps we may fail, but of course we will learn, adjust, improve, and move forward together. I think Dr. Lutfi gave the tissue at the right time, because we have reached the chapter 3, the journey, the signals that shape my life. Achievements can look neat when placed on a CV, but the real journey is rarely a straight line. It is shaped by uncertainty, people, second chances, support, and faith. Well, this slide just gives a glimpse on how often we imagine life, a clear path from dream to achievement. Thank you to AI for creating this picture for me perfectly based on what I instructions. So, but life is rarely a straight line. My journey has been filled with peaks, valleys, unexpected turns, and there are 2 important turning points, especially the one in 2002 that shaped who I am today. Through every stage, from joining UPM and becoming a lecturer to research, teaching, and service, I was never alone. My family, mentors, colleagues, students, friends were part of the journey. Today at 51, not yet, December, 9 December. I stand here not only because of my achievements, but because of the people, support, and belief that carried me through. Behind the journey, there were people whose words, trust, and presence become signal guiding me forward. The first signal I want to acknowledge came at a moment when academic journey could have ended very differently. I think I'm not sure if Prof. Zainas remember in 2002, we were at KIIA on the very same night. He flew to Manchester and I flew to London for our MPhil study. But unexpected things happened. I came back. I have to come back. And I was not happy, really not happy. My superiors also of course not happy, and asked me to see this person, Professor Dr. Zahadi Badai. I invited him a few days ago, and he said he will join this online. Okay. So what make this special? Because of course you want to meet the VC. You are just a tutor. But he was very welcoming. He's composed. Those who know him know he's a very soft-spoken. He's very composed. I had a brief, just 10 minutes meeting with him. And he just asked me, what is your plan? And his decision gave me a second chance to continue my academic journey, which I'm truly grateful. So Dr. Zahadi, if you're online, thank you very much. I really feel grateful. I'm truly grateful forever. However, after that decision, I have to wait for a full year for the next intake. At that time, that year felt incredibly long. I was embarrassed, my confidence was deeply affected, and my motivation was at its lowest. And I received this story about deaf frog story. I'm not sure if you had this story. This is story I received through forwarded email. I just read, and then I can relate to myself where the story just to make don't listen for impossible. The deaf frog story is about climbing wall competition by a group of frogs. Everybody says it's not impossible. How you want to climb the frog? All the frogs are failed except one. Why? Because the frog is deaf, pekak. You cannot hear everyone say, don't go, you cannot do it, you cannot. So that is the motivation that I received when I read the story. And ironically, okay, why this picture? Just taken 2024, I went for grocery shopping, and suddenly I saw a frog climbing a wall at Iman. So of course, that took me back to this story. Okay. And the second signals come with this person, Dr. Paul H. Chappell from University of Southampton. He was my PhD, master's and PhD supervisor, and he is more than a supervisor. One thing I will clearly remember about him, he is the kindest person, very kind. And I emailed him, informing him about this event today, and as usual, his word made me want to cry again. His belief, passion, and support will always remain in my heart. So this is 2006 when I started my PhD, and then during my graduation, PhD graduation in 2009 and 2018, I went back to the UK just to visit, and of course, I want to meet him. And until today, from 2003 until 2026, we still keep in touch, just say hi to each other. And we have one supervisor, same supervisor with me today from UIA, Reha. I don't know, I saw her just now. Reha, there? Reha. Thank you for coming. So, while mentors help guide the professional journey, one person has walked beside me through almost every chapter. Sawal Hamid Muhammad Ali. My super best friend, aka my Encik Suami. So I mean, I wish I would tell more, but I'm afraid there will be a heavy downpour in the hall. But we joined UPM as student in 1993. Only in 1995 we start dating an item. So we graduated in 1999, married in 2000, and what happened in 2002, he decided to follow me for my master's PhD, for my master's fakul this year. Okay, he resigned from his job. We took Bank Rakyat loan, withdrew his EPF saving for his study fee, and then came back. Alhamdulillah, appointed by UKM as lecturer, and then we went back to UK for our PhD in 2006. And together our journey became richer and certainly more colorful, with three very different personalities, my children. So we have 3 children. My eldest son, Syafiq Azrai, the choir enigma. Second one, Saira Arisha. Where is Saira? Oh, there. The joyful chatterbox that has no pause and stop button. And my youngest, Shakira Ryan, the determined one. Behind our little family is a much larger circle, the prayers and blessings that have carried me from the very beginning. Honestly, I rehearsed this slide many times, and every time I cried. My family, my Abba, late Abba, and my mother Ina, my siblings, I have 7 siblings. Only my eldest brother is not here, my eldest brother in Sarawak, but others came from Johor, Penang and Kedah, arrived last night for this special moment. You can see from the picture, I'm the second one. And this is the last our picture together during Raya 2019. Because after that, COVID-19, I couldn't go back, I couldn't balik kampung to celebrate Raya. And we thought we could celebrate Raya in 2022. But my father passed away 1 week before Raya that year. My siblings, parents, and my cousin, was here. My eldest cousin, I don't know. Eldest cousin, my sister-in-law, brother-in-law, all are here. My nieces and nephews, thank you very much. I am a family person. I don't have to force them to come. I just said, please come to this special moment. And then they just make time for this event today. So they are my forever source of strength. That some spirit of support continues in another family I have been blessed with throughout my academic life, my students. To my students, past and present, I saw many of you are here today, from my master student, PhD student, my FYP students, and to students that I co-supervise in UPM, UKM, UTM, and Monash University. They are not only part of the journey, they are the reasons I have come this far. Without them, this milestone would not have been possible. Students helped build the work, but they and I were also supported by the department that has been my professional home, my Jabatan Kejuruteraan Electronic family. So, we are colleagues, but more than that, we are family. This inaugural lecture is our story. They stayed up very late last night to prepare for this event today. This inauguration is our celebration and our moment. And of course, I have to thank our KJ. Always menekan-nekan, but very in a positive way. Same as our Dean, menekan-nekan in a very positive way. If not, we just stay quiet. Okay. My professional home gave me stability. My aging, however, opened a different door and created a bond that became deeply personal. This is to my aging family. 6 years may appear short, but the intensity of the work, challenges, and shared purpose created a lifelong bond. Thank you to my aging for teaching me to see research through people, policy, community, and service. Thank you, most of you are here today. Another professional family began even earlier, in 2010, after coming back from the PhD, when I joined a professional society without really knowing anyone. My IEEE EMBS family. So we come from different organizations. We have from UM, UITM, UTM, Monash, Ketin. But my EMBS brought us together as one family. Joining them in 2010 was one of the best decisions on my professional journey, because I got to meet many people locally and internationally within the biomedical engineering field. And this one is to Jawatan Kuasa Syarahan Inaugural. Those who have been working very hard since, I don't know, I started doing this I started writing my book in last year. And after a year, only I get the date for today. So they are not from PSPK, Pejabat Dekan, Fakulti Kejuruteraan, JKE, of course, JKP, My Aging and U3A. Thank you very much for your support today. We will listen to their performance after this. Thank you for your time, effort and careful planning in making this inaugural lecture possible. So much work. I mean, this is part of them. There are many others behind the scene that, and I truly appreciate everyone who contributed to this special occasion. And beyond these circles are many more people and institutions whose contributions, direct or indirect, have carried this journey. To UPM, for all the support, Faculty of Engineering, my senior friends, U3A, PAWER, most of you are here today. Thank you very much. My families, friends. I have friends from my degree, Elecom, Matrix. I have friends from my Masters in Southampton. Aline, thank you for coming. And my PhD colleagues, all collaborators who has contributed directly or indirectly. My neighbor, I saw my neighbor here. Thank you, Madiha, for coming. He is a nuclear staff, and her supervisor is from Faculty of Engineering. She is our alumni. So it is impossible to name every person, but every act of support has mattered. Thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. Before I end, I want to leave you with the words that have accompanied me through many difficult and uncertain moments. Throughout my journey, whenever I felt worried, uncertain or overwhelmed, I returned to Surah Al-Inshirah because it reminded me not to worry too much, not to remain helpful and to trust that Allah is the journey. Today I have shared many signals with you, signals that help understand movement, fatigue, recovery and human well-being. But this has been the quietest and most powerful signal in my own life. Indeed, with hardship comes ease. Indeed, with hardship comes ease. And perhaps this is the final story I would like to leave you. Challenges are not end of a journey. Alongside every hardship, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has already promised ease. Thank you for being part of my journey. Next, I would like to invite you to watch montage, the story. That was not by me, created by KEE social media team. Thank you, Husnia. Thank you, Guy. Cannot see Guy. Ain and also Yon. I think at the back. Okay, I think we are ready.
Saya ingin menjemput Profesor Anom untuk berdiri dan menghadap audiens. Kita bagi ucapan yang gemuruh kepada beliau. Setinggi-tinggi tahniah di atas penyampaian syarahan inaugural yang begitu bermakna tadi dan syarat dengan pengisian ilmu. My job now is to reflect on this. Okay. Firstly, looking from this, lots of lesson learned for all of us here as researchers. Di engineering ni saya memang melihat penyelidiknya memang berkaliber tinggi lah. Ramai profesor di sini. Nombor satu, yang paling ramai profesor di UPM. Nombor dua, Fakulti Perubatan lah. Yang ini kita kena bagi laluan kepada Fakulti Kejuruteraan, di mana ada ramai profesor. Dan kita boleh lihat bahawa di penghujung penyelidikan kita lihat impak adalah satu perkara yang sangat penting. Bagaimana penyelidikan kita, walaupun kita membuat penyelidikan di dalam makmal, dan at the end, what is the impact of our research? Not only on publication, not only on getting anugerah, tetapi bagaimana masyarakat, industri bermanfaat, mendapat manfaat daripada penyelidikan kita. Itu telah ditunjukkan oleh Profesor Anom tadi. Dan saya lihat isu penuaan ni adalah sangat kritikal di Malaysia. Dan kita perlu lebih ramai lagi penyelidik kita untuk terlibat sama. Ini saya nak promosilah untuk MyAgeing ni, untuk tambah lagi lebih ramai researchers. Sebab saya nampak tak ramai yang berminat dalam research MyAgeing ni. Jadi ada wakil-wakil pada MyAgeing pada pagi ni, bolehlah promote sikit pada rakan-rakan kita supaya kita boleh menangani isu penuaan ini. Pada tahun 2030 kita dah mencapai aged nation, which is really worrying. Are we prepared? Kita, I don't think so. Datuk Tengku Aizan pun kata tak, kita tak prepared lagi. So di sini merupakan satu arena untuk kita boleh melibat sama. Kita ada Institut Penyelidikan Penuaan di Malaysia. Yang keduanya adalah teamwork. Teamwork adalah sangat penting. Kita telah mengorak langkah di PM ini untuk menggalak lebih ramai bekerja dalam kumpulan. Seperti mana yang semua sedia maklum bahawa kita menubuhkan what we call University Driven Research Program dan juga Faculty Driven Research Program. Dan tujuannya adalah untuk sama-sama kita bergerak dalam kumpulan dan bukannya bekerja dengan silo, which is daripada dulu-dulu lagi kita ni bekerja dalam silo, which is satu budaya yang tidak sihat di dalam universiti. Dan Alhamdulillah saya dah nampak ramai dah juga bekerja dalam kumpulan. Dan last kali, reflectionnya, resilience and perseverance is very important. Profesor Dr. Siti Anom telah menunjukkan bahawa journey as an academics is not easy. Ada ups and down. Dan kita tak nak bila kita on the downside terus give up. Saya dah lihat ramai generasi yang sekarang ni baru je down sikit dah give up. Which is not healthy. Yang muda-muda dalam audience ni ada ramai. So it's a long journey. Dan you need a lot of guidance, you need a lot of mentorship dan sebagainya untuk menjadi seorang yang berjaya seperti Profesor Dr. Siti Anom. Jadi saya ingin merakamkan setinggi-tinggi penghargaan dan ucapan tahniah sekali lagi kepada Yang Berbahagia Profesor Insinyur Dr. Siti Anwar Ahmad atas pencapaian syarahan inaugural yang amat cemerlang pada pagi ini. Dan saya harap semua mendapat manfaat juga daripada perkongsian ilmu tadi. Dan sekian, terima kasih. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Hadirin sekalian, bagi menyerikan lagi majlis syarahan inaugural pada pagi ini, majlis dengan penuh sukacitanya menjemput Persatuan Pembelajaran Sepanjang Hayat Warga Emas U3A Malaysia untuk tampil dengan satu persembahan istimewa. Untuk pengetahuan para hadirin, Persatuan Pembelajaran Sepanjang Hayat Warga Emas atau U3A Malaysia merupakan sebuah persatuan yang menggerakkan konsep pembelajaran sepanjang hayat dalam kalangan warga emas menerusi pelbagai aktiviti seperti kelas muzik, seni, bahasa, kesihatan dan teknologi. Yang berbahagia Profesor Insinyur Dr. Siti Anwar Ahmad sendiri telah lama menyumbang dalam agenda penyelidikan penuaan bersama Institut Penyelidikan Penuaan Malaysia MyAG, menggabungkan kepakaran kejuruteraan bioperubatan dan kecerdasan buatan bagi meningkatkan kualiti hidup warga emas, satu agenda yang menjadi teras syarahan inaugural beliau pada pagi ini. Justru persembahan ini bukan sekadar hiburan tetapi juga menjadi simbol hubungan antara universiti, penyelidik dan komuniti warga emas. Marilah kita sama-sama memberikan tepukan gemuruh sebagai tanda sokongan kepada Persatuan Pembelajaran Sepanjang Hayat Warga Emas U3A Malaysia. Dipersilakan.
Lagi satu untuk dia, lagi satu the wireless mic dia. Ada. Sini.
Majlis merakamkan ucapan terima kasih kepada Persatuan Pembelajaran Sepanjang Hayat Warga Emas U3A Malaysia atas persembahan yang cukup bermakna sebentar tadi. Kini, majlis menjemput yang berbahagia Profesor Dr. Zamri Sekawi dan yang berbahagia Profesor Insinyur Dr. Siti Anum Ahmad bersama ahli pengurusan Fakulti Kejuruteraan untuk mengambil tempat di atas pentas bagi sesi bergambar. Majlis juga menjemput yang berbahagia Profesor Insinyur Dr. Nur Hafiz Aziz, Ketua Jabatan Kejuruteraan Elektrik dan Elektronik untuk menyampaikan cenderahati bagi pihak warga Jabatan Kejuruteraan kepada Profesor Anum. Majlis merakamkan ucapan terima kasih kepada yang berbahagia Profesor Dr. Zamri Sekawi dan ahli pengurusan Fakulti Kejuruteraan. Seterusnya, majlis menjemput ahli keluarga yang berbahagia Profesor Insinyur Dr. Siti Anum Ahmad untuk naik ke atas pentas bagi sesi bergambar.
Tak sadarkah kau sedang terluka? Tak mengapa, pelan-pelan ku berjalan senang.
kasih diucapkan kepada Yang Berbahagia Profesor Insinyur Dr. Siti Anom Ahmad dan ahli keluarga. Akhir sekali, majlis menjemput Div-Div Kehormat dan para hadirin untuk berdiri dan bergerak ke ruangan tengah auditorium bagi sesi bergambar. Dipersilakan. Terima kasih kepada para hadirin atas penyempurnaan sesi bergambar sebentar tadi. Hadirin sekalian, dengan berakhirnya sesi bergambar sebentar tadi, maka berakhirlah majlis syarahan inaugural pada pagi ini. Majlis merakamkan ucapan tahniah dan syabas kepada Yang Berbahagia Profesor Insinyur Dr. Siti Anom Ahmad atas penyempurnaan syarahan beliau. Mega mendung rintik gerimis, hawa dingin damai di hati. Tirai dilabuh, berakhirlah majlis. Terima kasih setulus hati. Sekian, wabillahi taufiq wa hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.